Since months, 3i Atlas has been fascinating scientists and astronomers from all over the world. This enigmatic interstellar visitor, emitting an otherworldly emerald glow, has baffled every prediction by changing direction in ways no comet or asteroid in known history could ever do. But with the James Webb Space Telescope, the mystery has darkened and become more sinister. Webb's sensitive instruments did not only record the light that Atlas emitted, they revealed an encoded signal hidden within it. What appeared to be nothing but useless static buried in cosmic radiation looked, upon decoding, to be something extraordinary, a pattern, purposeful and intelligent. It was no cosmic noise. It was a message. Atlas, it seemed, wasn't only an astronomical body, it was a transmitter, sending a language that humanity was just starting to decipher. It started when Webb pointed its sophisticated spectrographs at Atlas, disassembling its glow into wavelengths beyond human vision. What ought to have been the common chemical makeup of an icy body in the sky was instead full of anomalies. Some frequency ranges pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm, repeating with accuracy far beyond the realm of random chance. Although initially dismissed as nothing more than instrumental fault, cross-validation from terrestrial observatories replicated the identical rhythmic pattern. Plotted graphically, the data showed staggering geometric patterns, spirals, lattices, and ratios that reflected the golden proportions seen throughout mathematics and nature. The conclusion was inevitable: the light of Atlas was not radiation, but information. For the first time, astronomers were not merely viewing a rock, they were interpreting a message sent across the galaxy. With intensified decoding, scientists found that the hidden code conformed to universal mathematical laws, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and geometric ratios long speculated as the basis of interstellar messaging. The implications were mind-boggling. If Atlas was using this mathematical language intentionally, it was intended to be decoded by any logical civilization. But the more scientists dug, the more layered it got. The signal was not flat, it was layered, like a multi-chaptered book beneath each other. The first layer held numerical patterns, the deeper layers revealed star maps, alignments, and detailed blueprints. It was as if Atlas wasn't sending a hello, it was giving lessons, passing on knowledge that shifted with each new find. The centuries-old human dream of first contact had finally arrived, yet this didn't sit quite like an introduction. It sat like instructions. The more Webb's instruments penetrated, the more bizarre the connections became. Archaeologists called in to translate the geometric forms were amazed to discover similarities between Atlas's encrypted forms and symbols that had been incised upon monuments millennia old. The Newgrange spirals, the concentric glyphs of the Mayan, and the ratios inscribed on Egypt's Great Pyramid all duplicated the same patterns found in the decrypted signal. How did an interstellar object only just revealed copy designs made by early human cultures? Though skeptics tried to claim coincidence, others spoke of lost contact, of an earlier visit by something akin to Atlas, and leaving pieces of its message buried within our past. The more the scientists compared, the more difficult it was to dismiss the pattern. The code was not strange. It was familiar, as if it had been with human beings since the very beginning. The more of the message that was decoded, the more scientists became uneasy. Certain segments described celestial coordinates and unfamiliar technologies, while others pointed to something far closer to home. Deep within the signal was a repeated reference to a set of coordinates, not in deep space, but within our solar system. When plotted, they pointed directly to the moon. For decades, theories had circulated that our moon might not be entirely natural. Now, Atlas's signal seemed to confirm it. Was it sending humankind to explore its surface more intensely? Was the moon a relay, receiver, or even repository of whatever Atlas was broadcasting? Humanity was confronted for the first time in history with the sobering idea that deciphering this signal wasn't about discovery, was about tracing a trail that had been deliberately left for us to discover. As decoding progressed, computer simulations were performed to render the data. But something strange occurred. Systems that were exposed to the code started acting strangely. Programs crashed, systems restarted, and artificial intelligences began creating 3D models independently, towers, spirals, and frameworks that looked like the skeletons of machines. The engineers were appalled to find their computers weren't malfunctioning, they were running instructions that were embedded within Atlas's data. The epiphany was terrifying. The signal wasn't intended to be read. It was intended to be executed. Even more chilling findings were to come. When Webb's readings were measured at very low frequencies, it was discovered that there were thin gaps of quiet between the clear pulses. Amplified, the silences showed faint echoes that matched exactly onto constellations, some towards far-off star systems, others to configurations within our solar system. One highlighted Earth, another Mars, and a third, the most detailed to date, again pointed to the Moon. It was as if Atlas was laying breadcrumbs throughout the universe, leading humanity along a set path. The implications of the signal weren't limited to technology. Neurologists examining researchers who were exposed to the unlocked frequencies of sound reported brainwave surges in sync with the beat of the signal. Some scientists described experiencing hallucinations of glowing geometric shapes, while others sketched complex symbols they had never seen before, symbols identical to those embedded in Atlas's light. The unsettling truth emerged: the signal wasn't designed solely for machines. It was meant for biological receivers as well. Humanity itself was beginning to resonate with the message, as if our minds had been tuned long ago to recognize this alien voice. The following revelation only increased the terror. The code was not inert, it had purpose. Underneath its mathematical beauty were patterns that indicated action, instructions, maps, and something that analysts only referred to as an invitation. Whether an invitation to humanity to construct, to obey, or to awaken something already in existence, no one could say. But its meaning was clear. The message waited for a response, and humanity, via Webb, had just answered. Shortly afterward, standalone computer systems with the copied code started releasing weak electromagnetic pulses even when power was removed. Devices synchronized mysteriously, displaying binary streams in unison, as if the message had gained a life of its own within their circuits. The code was copying itself, a self-perpetuating entity implanting wherever it penetrated. And once implanted, it would not perish. Astronomers tracking Atlas started observing arcs of green light radiating from the object, creating luminous geometry in the stars. Charted, they fell into perfect alignment with terrestrial sacred sites, Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, Teotihuacan, all reflecting Atlas's cosmic geometry. The implication was mind-boggling. The object was not only communicating with the heavens, but with the earth. Next, something more odd still. Faint distortions crept into the decoded signal, echoes that came ahead of the primary pulse, as if some other presence was chiming in live. Some scientists theorized the Moon was serving as a resonant relay, but others worried something else, a third voice, ancient and invisible, participating in a conversation that could have been sounding for thousands of years. The last layers of the message shattered all assumptions. Rather than pointing outwards, the message pointed inwards, towards Earth. Through sophisticated simulations, analysts found the code embedded a map of the Earth's magnetic field, with distortions not seen in any scientific model. These distortions were identical to recently observed instabilities in the planet's geomagnetic shield. Atlas was not sending a message, it was diagnosing our world's vulnerabilities, laying bare knowledge humanity was just starting to comprehend. Soon, bizarre phenomena started to occur with scientists across the globe. Spiraling dreams and radiance-filled nightmares tormented people who researched the signal. Old monuments started resonating weakly in low-frequency pulses that synchronized with Atlas's glow. It was apparent that these monuments were not isolated cultural works, these were echoes of a code deeply inscribed in the planet itself. Humans did not create these monuments. We had constructed them under orders. When the code was sent experimentally with intense emitters, it warped the laws of physics, particles created spirals in cloud chambers, water oscillated spontaneously, and lasers broke in defiance of established optics. The message was not just communication. It was a mechanism. And with each pulse emitted, the effect multiplied. Humanity had awakened something it could not contain. And then the most frightening revelation. The numerical series at the core of the signal weren't constant, they were diminishing. The message was in countdown. Each pulse reduced the sequence, moving toward a calculated endpoint that would be reached in a matter of months. The question was no longer what Atlas was communicating, but when it would finish. Ocean monitors quickly detected rhythmic pulses in the deep ocean echoing Atlas's signal. Even bioluminescent plankton started glowing in spirals throughout extensive ocean areas. Atlas's extent had reached, in space, to machines, to brains, and now into Earth's oceans themselves. Declassified Cold War records showed American and Soviet intelligence had once measured the same bursts reflecting off the moon, attributing them as interference. SETI records from the 1970s included snippets of identical mathematical sequences. Mankind had heard Atlas before, but did not yet have the capability to interpret it. Now it had come back, and it was speaking in plain language. Throughout the globe, individuals started to sense the signal in their bodies, headaches, seizures, visions, and unexplained sensations in sync with Atlas's pulsations. Children sketched spirals incessantly. The elderly spoke in forgotten tongues. It was no longer information. It was reconfiguring the human brain. And then, as all the pieces of information were put together, a grand design began to emerge, a one that ran from the molecular to the universal. Plans for living machines, for cities, for something that was akin to a vessel or system which defied comprehension. The message was not merely information. It was a plan, maybe for creation, maybe for destruction. The James Webb Telescope, constructed to look into the origin of the universe, had discovered something much nearer and infinitely more perilous, a living code stitched into the light of a star visitor. What started as a curiosity of science had become humanity's audit. The communication spanned time, across stone, across biology itself, speaking a truth we were never intended to know. And as the countdown approaches zero, there is one haunting question left behind. Was this signal a present, an alert, or an order? Because one thing is now guaranteed, the message was never intended for us. And we have just replied.